Hi, I'm Francesca Simon, and I had the great fun and privilege of being the judge for the primary category, which is years 3 to 6, of the WriteStuff short story writing competition this year, organized by the Guernsey Lit Festival. And I'm going to read now the 3 winning stories. Our third prize winner is Phoebe Collis, and her story is called Mermaid Murder. Dear Diary, today is a day I will never forget. Darkness fell over my world and has changed it forever. I'll take you back to when the nightmare began. It started as an ordinary afternoon in Huw. I was with the sailors drinking in the tavern, admiring the shore of golden sand and sun beaming onto the large rocks, making it glisten like a jewel in the local shop. Out of the corner of my eye, a woman appears on the surface of the water, so innocent and pure. She had long, silky hair, swaying in the wind as if she was a goddess. Speechlessly, we stood like statues with our jaws helplessly lying on the floor. A few of the men ambled closer, as if they were in a trance. All of a sudden, the weather flipped like a coin. The sky released a bolt of electricity, striking a rock, slicing it like dough. The lady levitated out of the murky green water to unveil a scaly tail. She was a mermaid. The clouds swirled and twirled, dancing around her like dark waves. Her lips opened, revealing white fangs. Then a curse roared out of her mouth. "O men of Herm, follow me to the land of all your dreams and leave this world behind." The men were now plodding through the water, lifeless, towards this evil witch. Something deep down inside me whispered that everything would be okay as long as I avoided the song. Therefore, I hid under a table and covered my ears. I started to feel dizzy and overwhelmed. My head was spinning like a wheel on a bike. I checked to see where the rest of the men were. They were gone. I am the last one to tell the story. Now, this is a chilling fairy tale about a malevolent mermaid siren who entraps sailors. I was drawn in by the evocative description of, quote, her long silky hair swaying in the wind, and the abrupt shift from beautiful goddess to destructive evil. I also thought it was very effective having the story told in the first person from the only survivor. Well done. The second prize is from Amy Tosigny, which is Madame Mahi and the Cat Retold. And thanks, Amy, for all the Guernsey pronunciations, which I will do my best not to mangle. Hello, I'm Harriet Oja, a washerwoman from Catel. We kindly washerwomen like to gossip a little, but recently some dirty laundry has reached some ears it shouldn't. So as you can imagine, we got into a bit of trouble. Soon enough, we discovered it was sly, malicious Madame Mahi sharing the gossip. But the funny thing was, we never did her laundry. When I got home one day, I sat down and thought until I remembered. The cat! You see, every time we washerwomen sat down to the washing, there was always a silky midnight black cat. So I decided there was something supernatural occurring. I had a plan. Next morning, I set off bright and early to Madame Letizier's cozy granite cottage in Torqueville. Upon arrival, I immediately put the bulky iron on the stove to heat up while I began the washing. Shortly after, I heard a loud screech and saw the cat emerge from the window. I waited until it was comfortably perched on a shelf nearby, and then went to check on the iron. Boiling. Perfect. I picked it up, slowly crept up behind the cat, and quick as a flash, slammed it against the cat's nose. Hiss! It leapt off the shelf and darted away. Goodness gracious, my friend squealed. I was silent. The next day, I sauntered to Mrs. LePage's house, just down the dusty track, then continued to Madame de Carteret's cottage. The cat was nowhere to be seen at either. News spread that Madame Mailly had experienced an awful accident. She supposedly fell asleep in her chair and tilted forward, scorching her nose on the stove. But I knew she was a witch who shape-shifted into a cat and shared all our tittle-tattle. After that, all our secrets remained secrets forever. I really enjoyed how this clever, memorable story played with the idea of quote-unquote dirty laundry in all its meanings. The washerwoman narrator who wages war on whoever is spreading gossip is an engaging and vivid storyteller, and the tale was told with verve and gusto. So well done. And finally, our first prize is Sophie Harrison with her story, Milkmaid. In ancient times when In ancient times when people were waving swords about, there was a beautiful milkmaid. Wherever she went, flowers bloomed, the sun shone, and birds sang. Her passion was milking, and the milk from her cows was the best for miles around. Everyone tried to buy her beautiful milk, and it got sold out very quickly. She worked very hard every day, but was happy. One day she thought to herself, should I tell someone else my secret of why the milk is so tasty? She didn't know who to tell, but the secret was too big to keep. Finally, she whispered it aloud while making dinner. Her son, who was there, listened open-mouthed to her secret. He couldn't help but tell his best friend, and soon everyone in the village knew as well. When the milkmaid walked through the village the next day, everyone started laughing at her. At first, she didn't know why, but then she realized that her secret must be out. She was so embarrassed that she ran away, never to be seen again. Some of the villagers say that she turned into a cow herself. Do you want to know what her secret was? It was that every night she would do Irish dancing with her cows. It made the cows happy and their milk extra creamy. Maybe you should try it one day. Just don't tell anybody else her secret. I really loved this terrific story for its humor, surprise ending, and sheer fun. I was hooked from the great first sentence, in ancient times when people were waving swords about, to the utter surprise of the secret of her extra creamy milk. I also admired the brisk writing style and the fairy tale sparseness. Congratulations to our first prize winner, Sophie. I hope you all enjoyed hearing your stories read out, and it's been a great pleasure to have the chance to read them. So goodbye from me, Francesca Simon, and hope to see you one day in person on beautiful Guernsey. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Maz Evans, and I am the proud judge this year of the intermediate category, years 7 to 9, for the WriteStuff short story writing competition for the Guernsey Literary Festival. Now, I'm not going to lie, you guys made my life very, very, very difficult. And I'm old and stupid, so my life's very difficult anyway. But you really made it difficult because the standard of your stories was astronomical. I could have picked 15 winners, but sadly the rules were that I only had to pick 3. All of you did brilliantly, and always remember with competitions, I love judging competitions, but it worries me. I wouldn't want anybody to think that just because I didn't choose their story, it doesn't mean their story's very good. Absolutely not the case. This is my personal opinion on the things that I liked. And if a different judge had judged the stories, there would have been different winners. So always remember that it's very subjective with what I like. So it does not mean your story isn't brilliant just because I didn't choose it this time. But I will say that the stories that I did choose really impressed me. And with that in mind, with my piece of paper here, it is my proud delight to read the top 3 winning entries. So, in 3rd place, drum roll please. Okay, it's just me here, but I'll do it. In 3rd place, we have the brilliant Josiah Tooley with Pierre Dumont's Tale. And it goes a little something like this. Another. The bartender waved a glass at me, and I was tempted. It had been a great market day, and I'd had a few drinks with my friends, but Ruth was waiting at home, and a nasty storm was brewing. I shook my head and stood up to leave. Outside, the weather was worse than I'd thought. I pulled my coat tighter around me and started to walk, the pub's jovial sounds fading from earshot as I walked. By the time I reached Corbière, my clothes were sodden, my boots heavy with mud and wet, my cheeks and hands burning from the lashing wind and rain. I wish I'd stayed in the pub. That's when I heard it. A high, almost shrill voice calling, "Help!" through the wind's roar. Thinking I'd imagined it, I kept walking, but I heard it again, louder now. "Help! Help me!" It was a child. I had no choice but to follow it toward the cliff edge. I couldn't see and struggled to hear, and in the dark and rain and wind, I was afraid I might go over the edge. "Can you get to me?" I shouted, and moments later, I felt the child place its cold, thin hand into mine. In the darkness, I could see only its outline. How was so small a child out here in this storm? The wind howled, and I shouted to be heard. "Come with me, and I'll keep you safe." Talking was impossible, and I was glad to reach my gate. Ruth ran to open the door, but then screamed and drew back, pointing at my companion. I looked down. What I had thought was a child was an old, wizened creature, a poke. "I am Le Petit Colin. You promised to keep me safe," he said. "Ah, Josiah, I loved this story. I said in my judging, I love this. Your writing is so polished and you set your scene brilliantly before throwing in a fantastic twist at the end. I really want to read more of this story and see what other mischief Le Petit Colin has in store." I apologise as well if I've mispronounced a pock or a poke or a pook or a pick or a, sorry, my idiot brain. So apologies if I said it wrong, but what a brilliant story, Josiah. Massive congratulations on 3rd place for you. Now, 2nd place, drum roll everybody, still just me. It goes to the fantastic Jake Taylor, who wrote the brilliant story, The One Who Weaves Forever. And I loved this, Jake. It goes a little something like this. I have been weaving since I was a child. It comforted me in times of sorrow. Death followed me everywhere. My parents died when I was born. I only remember them from what people have told me about them. I was raised by my grandparents in a small, run-down cottage outside the village. No one wanted to be my friend growing up. I was the peculiar girl who had no parents, until I learned to weave. My grandmother noticed my interest in weaving and taught me how. A short while later, it was clear that I had a natural talent. I quickly outshone her. She didn't mind, though. She was pleased I finally had something that would hopefully make my childhood nicer. Weaving became my life. I could make anything you wanted, but my favourite things to spin were tapestries. I would hand them out as gifts. I didn't want to make money off them. I simply wanted to share my gifts with the world. Swiftly, My talents became world-renowned, so people spread the rumour that Athena herself had taught me. Now that made me angry. Calling out Athena, I told her that if she was so good at weaving, then why didn't she come down here and beat me in a weaving contest? Inevitably, Athena came. Setting up our looms, we wove day and night. The result was amazing. Athena wove a beautiful scene of the gods at their mightiest, sitting on their thrones at Mount Olympus. However, I wanted to spite the gods. I depicted the gods at their worst. Athena was furious, insulted and outraged. She cursed me. My hair fell out. My whole body shrank and shriveled until I was an insignificant, hideous spider. You want to weave? Cried Athena. Go ahead and weave. Jake, I love this. My love of Greek mythology is no great secret. I wrote a series of books called Who Let the Gods Out, based all on Greek mythology. And I loved what you did this. And Jake, I said about this is really evocative storytelling with a strong narrative tug pulling us through the tale. A lot of people will relate to poor Arachne, finding comfort in a special talent they really enjoy, although I hope it works out better for them. A beautiful piece of writing. And it really was, Jake. Massive congratulations. It was a very close run thing, but a brilliant silver medal for you. Well, well done. Well, now this just left me with the winner. Now I went back and forth and up and down all around the houses deciding on this because there were so many strong entries, but I must confess that when I read this one, it kind of jumped out at me and I absolutely loved it. So my huge, enormous congratulations go to everyone, still just me. Halt, for I ruined Zeus's tablecloth. As I was called to Zeus's palace, I wondered what I'd done wrong now. I'd done an awful lot that Zeus wasn't happy with lately, but so what? Just because our dad didn't eat him doesn't make him god of the world. However, he had been acting strangely lately. He didn't blink when I spilt ambrosia over his pristine white tablecloth. Last time I did that, I had to hang in Tartarus with my uncles for ages. I knew this plan involved Poseidon too. It always does. Emma! And once again, Hades, coolest god in the universe, gets left out. I've got Cerberus though, the best dog for the best god. When he grows bigger, he'll be the best guard dog around. When I materialized into Zeus's palace, my heart sunk. My brothers looked awfully chummy towards each other, and when they turned to face me, they had huge grins plastered across their faces. Hades, how good to see you, they chorused. Brothers, I ground out, trying and failing to keep my tone jovial. I mean, we have decided to divide our territory. Thank gods. For the last millennia, all Zeus's speeches have contained is harmony, harmony, harmony. Blech. Let's draw straws. It's the fairest way. I didn't think anything about Zeus was fair, but I wanted this as much as him. He drew out 3 straws with colours on them. I frowned. I knew where this was going. Poseidon drew the blue straw. Whoa, see, I totally wasn't expecting that, he said, as if reading from a script. Zeus went next and pulled out the white one. Sky, obviously. He didn't look at all surprised. So when I drew the only one left, the black one, and read what was written inside, all I could say was, knew it. I absolutely love this, Emma. Again, obviously, I love Greek mythology, but I love that you took a tale, the division of the 3 realms in Greek mythology, and you made it really funny and you gave it such a voice. And I said, this is just a wonderful retelling of poor old Hades, who is always the odd god out in mythology. He's often depicted as evil, so I love that you made him hard done by instead. Your writing is really slick with a lovely comedy tone, and you tell the story brilliantly. Hades might not have won, but you have, and a very worthy winner you are, Emma, too. But massive congratulations to everybody. Thank you for sharing your wonderful talents and tales with me. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed it. I'm very confident about the future of writing with all these brilliant authors. A little bit worried about my own job, but that's for me to deal with. And I hope another time, rather than be in my little box here, perhaps I can come to Guernsey and come and see you all. But until then, massive congratulations for your brilliant work. Well done to all the winners, and to all of you, keep on reading and keep on writing, because the world needs brilliant stories and the world really needs you. Thanks so much, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
Hello, I'm Joanne Harris. I was the judge for the senior category, Year 10 Plus, of the WriteStuff short story writing competition this year, organised by the Guernsey Literary Festival. I enjoyed reading the entries enormously. There was a really high standard there, and I was quite hard put to decide which were the winners, which were the runners-up, and they were all excellent in their way. They all had something good about them, and I put a little note at the end of each one in the hope that you will get to read them, because I think there's a huge amount of talent there, and it was really a delight to read them all. I am now going to read the winning stories, the 3 winning stories, in reverse order, along with my comments. So this is the 3rd prize, and the winner of the 3rd prize is Henry Lister. The piece is called The Manipulating Motivators. And here it is. 2 opposing views, 2 opposing visions, 2 opposing goals formed by their stories of old. Yet on this ancient field, 2 sides face each other with shared ancestry within their warm blood, fueling their bodies with anger derived from derangement. Yet blood shall be needlessly spilt, all staining and poisoning the grass, for neither side's blood is more pure. Saints on flags guiding their men to an untimely death. George, Andrew, David, Patrick, tranquilly fluttering in the wind, ordering their men to strike. The defeated dragons and retreating reptiles, spread from mouth to ear, do not exist on the other side. Only fellow men, similarly motivated by the result of one long, tragic game of Chinese whispers. None hold swords yanked from stone, but rather metal killing machines, manufactured from the blood, sweat and tears of labour. Whether struck down or victorious, they will fall victim to these holy men they worship. A complex of superiority, a delusion of purity told by dragons, swords and magic. The whispers of survivors, ever more intense due to the realism of warfare and mortality, continued through generations. Myths manipulated into wars. Wars manipulated into tales of heroism. Heroism manipulated into a common and superior goal in the name of nationalism, determined by what border you're born behind, as behind that border is enemy lines. Livelihoods destroyed, cultures broken, religions killed off due to a chasm taking the form of a nation's perimeter within a land we had shared. Yet, while many had given themselves to a cause they had been taught, at their end, their blood was the same as their murderers. For in reality, the myths and legends of the stories of old leads not to Camelot, but the downfall of the very men they had inspired. I liked this one very much. I said that the language was fluid and very nicely managed, and the heroic style makes this a very strong and atmospheric piece of writing, and it definitely deserves a prize. The second prize that I'm going to read now is a piece by Josh Le Sauvage. It is called The Titanic Struggle, and it's in a very different style. I am Atlas, son of Iapetus. For an eternity I've strived to prop this earth's heavens on my shoulders. Yet it is only now in this modern world that I can relieve myself of some of this mighty burden. I started my sentence as sharp as a whip and as strong as an ox, fresh from the traumas of war. I spent my first eras scheming of ways to gain vengeance over Zeus and the other Olympians. Though eventually and inevitably it dawned that if I weren't here, holding up the roof to man's playground, who would? I'd hungered for control and power for myself, yet was gifted such a beautiful responsibility that, for the while, made me whole. In recent times, all is not well. As I've aged, I've grown anxious of dropping the ball. I fear my bones are growing too brittle and my joints too stiff. A dark void is sucking away my capability. Was I not better suited for this as a young Titan? I recall the days when the likes of Odysseus and Leonidas courageously led their men to run rampant across the scrub. From where I watched, high above the clouds, I could see them hurting and grieving under the weight of their responsibility, and I understood how they felt. No matter how many battles were won and treacherous foes defeated, children would be orphaned and wives widowed. It all seemed hopeless. Forever, lone wanderers have been my only acquaintances. They could never understand the titanic struggle I was battling, lashing me with cruel jibes to man up. Their derision was constant, at least until now. Now my visitors want to share my burden. They want to talk. They understand me. I liked this one particularly because of the really excellent character voice and the very nice, subtle use of humour and wordplay. I found it refreshing and fluid and articulate, and I'm very happy to recommend it for a prize. Now, the first prize is for Jordan Guille. It is called Search for the Unicorn, and again, it's very different. One of the things I've loved about this is the wide diversity of approach here and the wide diversity of voices. My little sister still believes in unicorns and leprechauns and a land of eternal sunshine. God, she's naive. Big brother, she says, looking up at me. Can we go to the park, please, to look for a unicorn? Now, I don't believe in unicorns, not one bit. I may still be in school, but I know not to believe in unicorns. Somebody ought to teach my sister about the real world. Anyway, I don't know why, but I said okay. Maybe I just can't say no to her. She's like my one weakness. Imagine a fairy wearing some sparkly dress, flitting and fluttering against the wind. That's exactly my sister, light as a feather, barrelling down the road and kicking up dirt in my eyes the whole way. Well, it's turning autumn now, and I'll admit the trees look kind of pretty this time of year. In the spring, they're fresh and a new shade of green. Then they bloom and fan out in the sun. Finally, they turn gold and fall from the skies, landing all around us. But after that, there's just the cold. So you see, I am a little torn up, knowing my sister's going to be disappointed and all. But now she's off ahead, nearing the brow of the hill by the park. I've been here many times as a kid. I would come and play on the swings, but for some reason, I guess I stopped. Somehow my sister's still convinced we're going to find a unicorn. And you know, when she takes my hand and pulls me over the top of the hill and we see the long grass stretching out where my playground used to be, when we pretend to look for a unicorn in the bushes, I swear it kills me. I liked this one particularly because of its lovely exploration of this relationship with a hint of nostalgia for a more innocent time. And I loved the cleverly handled way in which the narrator manages their sympathy and affection for their sister, but nevertheless conveying a sense of grown-up scorn. Highly commended, very much deserving of a prize, as indeed all of you were. Thank you so much for involving me in this. It's been enjoyment for me from beginning to end. And good luck with your future writing. I hope you continue with it, because it will be interesting to see what you do in 5 or 10 years' time. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Hello, it's Andrew Hislop, founder of More Theatre and also an actor living here in Guernsey and really excited about the Guernsey Literary Festival. I've been given the opportunity of reading two really amazing stories. And it's all to do with the WriteStuff competition. And this particular category is the SEND category of stories for both primary and secondary level. We've been very fortunate enough to have Huw Lewis-Jones as judge, and it must have been difficult for him, no doubt, having read lots of amazing stories, but he has made a choice, and I've got those here. And I'm going to start with reading the first prize for the primary level. That goes to Colton Lee Lewis, year 6. And he's from London. His story is entitled The Legend of Spike and Tom. Let's get into this. Once upon a time, there was a destructive person called Spike. He was so evil, he went to prison 38 times because he ruined all the children's birthdays. He was a big fan of chocolate cake. Spike had 8 enormous, spiky arms and jet-powered boots that shot fire at his enemies when he fought them. Tom was a tall superhero. He had 4 legs, and half of his body was a hand, which wasn't normal. He was a mutant. Tom also had a robot planted inside him. That was his sidekick. His sidekick helped Tom fight and told him what moves to do. Spike and Tom had been battling for years and years. They were worst enemies. One day, Tom was celebrating his birthday. Spike appeared as if by magic and stole the green and white birthday cake from Tom. Tom was furious and he wanted payback. So he went to Spike's lair to fight him. This fight was different. It was brutal. The two of them fought furiously. Spike stabbed Tom's leg so he couldn't walk. Tom tried to stand up and fight him, but Spike kept dodging his shots. Tom was almost ready to pass out, but his sidekick told him to persevere, so he fought for hours and hours, never stopping. Spike was beginning to feel sick and tired, and he began to make lots of mistakes. All of a sudden, Tom jumped up at him and finished him off with a punch to the face. Spike fell to the ground with a thud. Tom had won. Tom went home and celebrated the victory over Spike. Little did he know, Spike was still alive. What an amazing story and a great one to read. What did Huw have to say as judge on this particular story? Well, he said, good drama, storytelling and imagination. It made me chuckle and a little bit afraid too. I followed the action and then the story continues. I really want to know what happens next. Well done. Yes, well done indeed. So the second story, well, it's the first prize for the secondary level, and that goes to Harvey Wilson of Lemuria, year 10, and this one is entitled The Curse. There was once a charming king called Claudius and his queen called Alexa Ray. They lived in a huge castle outside Daring Woods in Pluckley. One day, Claudius went into Daring Woods. He stumbled upon a really spooky-looking shack. He looked through the window but saw no one. There were no lights, but there was smoke coming out of the chimney. Claudius decided to walk to Pluckley to talk to some locals in the village about the spooky shack. They told Claudius, if you go into the woods at night, you can hear screams. That's why Daring Woods is nicknamed the Screaming Woods. The locals told Claudius that there is an evil witch called Ursula living there. If you call her name, 5 times, she will appear and curse you. Bad luck will follow. That evening, Claudius went into the screaming woods. He was terrified. The woods were really quiet and eerie. He had his lantern, but struggled to see anything. He was sure someone or something was following him. Suddenly, the shack appeared, and he started saying, "Ursula," 5 times. Seconds later, the woods got a whole lot scarier. He heard screaming coming from every direction. He thought he saw a ghostly figure staring right at him from the trees. He heard footsteps coming from the trees in front of him. He heard rustling from the bushes. His lantern suddenly turned off, and the screams got closer. Claudius felt breathing behind him. He turned around, and there was the witch. Ursula had big spots on her nose and really brown teeth. Ursula laughed, and at that moment, Claudius ran back to the palace. From that moment, Claudius's life fell apart. The tale is still told today, with people trying to find the shack. Do you dare? What another amazing story. What did Huw have to say? Well, he says, "Do you dare going into the spooky forest?" Simple but evocative storytelling and full of suspense. What happened to Claudius? And what I also wonder is what happened to the witch. What was she laughing at, I wonder? 2 very amazing stories. Well done to both of you and to everybody who contributed to this particular competition. Well done. All I can say is please continue to read, continue to write. It's not only an inspiration for yourselves, but it's an amazing inspiration to people like me reading such amazing stories. Well done to both of you and everyone involved.